It's a pleasure to, is this carrying well enough? Just wanted to make sure. So it's a pleasure for me, for this first cantata of the year, to be performing it on Reformation Sunday. Boys, why don't you go up and around to the back? You may know the story of how Reformation came to pass. A monk named Martin Luther, in the year 1517, wrote a series of 95 theses that he posted on a door in a castle in Wittenberg. And from that early protest about what Luther deemed as abuses of the Roman Catholic Church grew a Protestant movement, and led by one of the denominations known today as the Lutherans, named after Martin Luther. In particular, Luther was against the selling of indulgences, which was a device by which you could, well, I don't know exactly, buy salvation. He thought that was wrong. Anyway, so Martin Luther founded the Lutheran Church, as it turned out, and Johann Sebastian Bach really liked Martin Luther. He was, first of all, he was a devout Lutheran. He owned the complete written works of Luther at a time when books were very expensive, very unusual to have that kind of a library. So this devout Lutheran named Johann Sebastian Bach wrote 2 cantatas for Reformation Day, which is October 31st. Today it's almost always celebrated on the Sunday before October 31st, which is today. This is a chorale cantata. It's based on Martin Luther's own melody that he wrote for a hymn by the same name, Ein feste Burg ist unser Gott, a mighty fortress is our God. Listen to the way that tune presents. Now the choir is going to present it one voice after another, and you expect to hear this strong melody, and you will. But between the melodic notes are these little short bursts. Those in Baroque musical language are called the joy motive. Bach believed that when you heard that, it would make you feel happy. He also believed that this was a happy message. So it's a happy marriage of music and text and belief in this opening tune that all 4 voices in the choir present one after another. Okay, can't miss it, can you? But Bach says with Bach there's always more. So Bach says, where is this praise to be directed to unser Gott? Well, to heaven above. So he has the 3 trumpets and the timpani come in with little fanfares that direct your attention upward to where the praise should be headed. So at the very beginning, they do this. The piece is called a chorale cantata. What that means is this tune, A Mighty Fortress is Our God, will be presented in movement after movement. So in Bach cantatas, the final movement is understood to be the summation of what was explored in the cantata. If you will, the moral of the story, the lesson Bach hopes you to take away. So we're going to show you that tune all the way through as it appears in the final movement. You have a translation in your program book, and we will show you that now so we can present the rest of the ideas that flow from it. So when you get to be very old like me, you get to look back on what you've done. I've been working on the music of Bach for more than 60 years. I played the little inventions when I was about 10 or 11, and on and on and on. I love Bach's musical language, but what I love about it, among other things, is how it keeps revealing more dimensions to me. One that's revealed itself to me more recently, I knew intellectually, but now it's come to light for me, and this is an example of that one. It's the use of various numbers. In this piece, the number 6 appears. If you look on page 35 in your program book at some point, not while I'm talking, of course, but you will see Bach's use of different numbers. Number 6 is the number associated with creation. Where does that come from? The Bible says that God created the earth in 6 days. So as noted in that little essay on page 35, there are 6 of many things that were created in Bach's world. The 6 audition pieces to the Duke of Brandenburg, for example. The first group of organ pieces published by a guy named Schubler, 6 of those. 6 of a lot of things. In this piece, there are 4 parts in the choir, but Bach is interested in the creation of a new church by Luther. So he adds 2 more. And I want to show you those 2. He adds the trumpet at the tippy-toe top and the double bass all by himself at the very bottom. Voices 5 and 6. Bach is saying in 2 different ways. By the tessitura, he's saying this is something for the whole, created for the whole world, right? From the highest to the lowest and the people in between. But also it's a creation, a joyful thing, as we've heard from the musical language. So listen to the trumpet and the double bass as they come in right after the chorus, and as they will again and again within the piece, entrances 5 and 6. I would have never thought of that. After this spectacular opening movement, we go to a duet. Now, Bach duets for soprano and bass always represent the same thing. The soprano represents the bride or the church on earth, and the bass represents God or the Father, if you will, in heaven above. And the 2 of them together, this is the marriage of humankind and the divinity, represented by the soprano and the bass. In this duet, the bass and the bride sing back and forth together, and I'll show you some of that, but I also want to show you one of the things that Bach does that's called word painting. When he gets to a word that he particularly likes, he writes music that sounds like the definition of the word, like you would find in a dictionary. So the word alles means all. When he gets to the word all, he has our bass soloist sing all the notes of a scale. But again, Bach is happy about this story, so he intersperses within that scale of running notes one moment of the bum, ba, ba, the little joy motive. So here, ba, 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 bum, ba, ba, the little joy motive. So not only is it all, but we're happy that God is taking care of all of us in the world. It's all on one word, alles. It's a chorale cantata, I said. So the soprano and the oboe are going to sing the melody, Luther's melody, while he's doing that. And the soprano's going to do something kind of interesting. We're going to see this more prominently in the very next movement, which is a solo for her. But she's going to sing Luther's melody as it's presented, and then add these little momentary bits of music that sound like she's being coyish or seductive. She sings the melody with these little ornaments as if she's trying to lure God to take care of humankind on earth. It's a fascinating thing that Bach has done here. Okay, that's like a foreshadowing. The next movement is, the text is, "Komm in mein Herzenhaus," a lovely compound word in German, my heart's house. And for that, we have this dance. We have an enormously wonderful cello player who has a solo line, and she'll present the melody, and then the singer will come in, and it just sounds like a dance. You should picture, scars floating in the air and all kinds of beautiful things. It's a lovely, seductive dance that she sings to God, come into my heart, if you will, come into my being. You have to wait to hear the whole thing. It's really, really beautiful. Okay, the choir comes back now for another verse of the chorale. And this one is it's one level of fascination after another. They represent, if you will, devout, church-going Lutherans standing up against the meshuggah, the craziness, the sirens of the world, right? So the orchestra is the world. And they have a jig, this rollicksome dance. And within the rollicksome dance is all these running lines going in all different directions. And then the choir comes in a magnificent unison and stands up for, if you will, the good, the honest, against that. Listen to this beginning of the fifth movement. I just love this stuff. Okay, we have one more duet. This time it's for the alto and the tenor. And this is another thing that Bach does with some frequency. When he puts them dead together, it's usually the idea of mankind and the divinity coming together in a blessing, like you might have with a clergy person or something more like that. Anyway, so they're going to sing together in perfect parallel motion. And the text is, how blessed are those when they speak of God, right? So again, Bach's music matches the words. One last thing. What have we looked at today? We've looked at how a chorale melody, a hymn melody, can permeate a piece. We've looked at what we call word painting. We've looked at the doctrine of affections, musical, rhythmic, usually things that are supposed to make you feel what they called an affect, we would call an emotion, perhaps. We've looked at different kinds of symbolism, but here's one more. Visual symbolism. Now, I'm so sorry you can't come up and look over the orchestra's shoulders as they play, but when he gets to the word fienda, Bach writes a line that looks like this. It's a snake. The fiend, the serpent, is the devil, right? Well, great artists have depicted that forever in visual art. So I'm going to have him sing it to you anyway because you're smart people and you can perhaps just picture this in your mind's eye when this shows up later in the cantata. When he gets to the word fienda, you'll hear not the kind of scale that the bass sang like that, but you'll hear a thing that sort of stays put and undulates like a snake might. Above that is this serenity of the believer above the serpent. This guy Bach is fabulous. It's such a joy and privilege for us to perform it for you. So thank you for coming and sharing Cantata 80 with us. I want to say we have the great joy of having a new person in our organization, an associate conductor of high ability, a great guy. He's been, some of you may know him, he's been in Baltimore, Ted Davis. And Ted is actually going to run this run through of the cantata, so I'm going to join you to listen to it. Here's Ted.